Hi everyone, I'm Sarah, Childhood Finds. Thank you for joining me today. If you've never joined my channel, I am a full-time reseller and I like to do these research videos that I'm about to do so that I can delve into specific niches and really start to learn about them. I do these videos to help support my knowledge growth as well as yours and just sharing it with others. I've done cookbooks, I've done paperback books, I don't even remember everything I've done. I've done a lot of research videos because I thoroughly enjoy them and they've also helped me a lot. I've done stickers, I've done telephones. I just had to remember a couple more. So I do have a playlist that will show at the end of this video. You can click where you can see my other ones that maybe would benefit you to learn about certain topics and what's valuable within them. And why I do these too is to show you the things that are the most valuable within niches. Because sometimes there's niches that just aren't very valuable, like precious moments, but I did videos on what's valuable within those precious moments so that you do know that there's some stuff out there to look for and not to just completely glaze by it. And I have another flatware video that I will link down in my description. It'll be the first link that you can click if you want to learn more about flatware if you missed the part one. And then this will just be more brands from the last video. So it will not be any of the brands from the first video. It'll be all new ones for you to look out for, as well as ones that are common and ones that I think maybe you wouldn't think would have flatware. So I wanted to share a lot of different ones with you. There'll be prices ranging for sets for $150 to over $700. So there's not quite as many showstoppers as the first video, but there's still a lot of valuable things within this video that I'm going to be sharing with you. And my last request is if you could like or comment. It's a free way to support my channel and helps get my videos out there. It makes YouTube happy. It pleases YouTube and helps them push my video out more so that I can continue to grow my channel and support making these videos. So other than that, guys, let's get started on a bunch of new things for you to look out for. As always, the quick side of how I do these research videos is I only look at eBay because it would just take too long to do other platforms. So eBay is just for ease of delivery, but it would behoove you to look at other platforms to sell on because you can absolutely make more money on some other platforms. You know, with vintage ones, you might be able to make more on Etsy, and there's other different sites that could be valuable to you. So always do price research on multiple platforms when you're considering selling a set or silverware when you get it. But that said, let's get started. This first one I wanted to start with because I felt like it was important to, because I made an error in my first video. I said that I pretty much don't pick up any flatware that doesn't have a name. So if I pick it up and it says India, Taiwan, China, I typically will just put it right back down. So this I'm sharing with you to show that that's not always a good plan. So I actually picked up some Pottery Barn recently that does not say Pottery Barn on it. And I would have lost out on a lot of money if I hadn't have picked it up. So I wanted to share this set with you, and I think I have more than one Pottery Barn pattern to share with you. This first one is a 49-piece set. It's called Fiddlehead, and it is a very interesting pattern. I feel like maybe I would have picked it up because it's so interesting, but this one is not marked Pottery Barn. So this is what it looks like up close. It is very interesting, very neat. I would not personally use this as my daily, but it's interesting. So this isn't a good picture, but you can see that this just, I think probably says Thailand on it and doesn't say Pottery Barn on it because I looked at other listings. And this 49-piece set with the box, of course, sold for $395, or no, it sold for a best offer of $300 on it. That's why it also does pay to do research in Terapeak. So if you see sold, it doesn't always mean that's what they sold for. This doesn't have a line through it or anything. A lot of them do have lines through them if offers are accepted, but it doesn't always. So you wouldn't know the true value of an item unless you really start to look at Terapeak. So I do think it's a valuable resource. It's on eBay's research tab when you go to your seller hub. And you can look up prices as far as 3 years ago. And it helps give you the true value of items. So this one here sold for $300 on a best offer for that pattern. And then here's another Pottery Barn one that is lettuce, and it's made in Japan. It went for a best offer of $550, But I will say I checked this one and it actually is marked Pottery Barn. So some of them can be, but I know that the one I picked up is not marked Pottery Barn and the first one you looked at was not marked. And that means I probably wouldn't have picked those up. I picked up the one I have because there was a new in-box place setting that said Pottery Barn. And so if you see a really interesting handle, like the fiddlehead we looked at, absolutely start to look it up. I used replacements.com. In my first video, I go over how to identify your pattern, and I used replacements.com on the Pottery Barn one I got, and it came up with it, even though it doesn't have a name marked on it. So definitely worth checking out. And then here is just, I also am liking to show you small lots. So I love to piece out my silverware. And that is what I do 95% of the time. So I'm showing you them pieced out as well, what some pieces are selling for. So the set sold for $5.50, and then, but I looked in these 6 salad forks sold for $179.99. As always, your soup spoons and your dinner knives are going to be less valuable. Your dinner forks and teaspoons are going to be typically the most, along with your salad forks as a very close third. This one I wanted to show, it is Cambridge. So Cambridge is a brand to look out for. They have a lot of different patterns. This is one that's not super common. I like to show you things that I believe are actually out there. And this isn't super common, but I do think you could find it. And it's called Scoff France. And it you can see that there's some, I tend to ignore the extreme outliers on sales. So I'm looking more at these 500s for sets. And there's different colors of this set. So there's an ivory one, there's a pink one, I believe there's a blue that I'm going to be showing you. So there's different colors of this handle that you can be looking for, and all of them have some value. So any of the colors you find of this are valuable. So you can see here that sets are going for over 500. This is a pink one, and this one does not say what color it is, but you can see that I mean, this one here sold, you can see how valuable some of the just pieces are. Let's look at a parted out one. This is just knives, and this sold for a best offer of $127.49, and you can tell that they had 2 of these at one point and both have sold. And that's just for 4 dinner knives. If you have 4 dinner knives selling for over $100, it's a valuable pattern. Because the forks would be way more than that. And the teaspoons. Teaspoons are valuable because everybody throws them in the garbage disposal. And here's a set I wanted to show you as an example of why I like to piece out items. So this is a 22-piece Scoff Cambridge dark blue handle, and this is a decent size set, and I would have parted this out. This sold for $87.30, but I looked and there's not a lot of solds of this color, which absolutely would be probably why they put it as a set. There's 2 salad forks that sold for $39. In here we can see 2, 4, 6, 8 salad forks. So you would have had 4 lots of that. That's already almost double what this lot sold for. Then I saw 4 soup spoons that sold for $80. I believe these are teaspoons, but the teaspoons would go for more. So 100%, this is probably a few $100s if you parted it out. But it's not always the most valuable to part it out. Don't always part out. There are sets that just are meant to stay together. But most of the time when I find things, it's never a complete full set. So I just part it out, and it typically works for me. The only thing you will run into is that then you end up with a lot of dinner knives and soup spoons. This next one is going to be Princess House. I just wanted to share this because most of the time when you think of Princess House, you associate it with the pretty crystal things that are everywhere. And this is actually Princess House actually made a flatware set as well. And this is called Barrington. It is quite valuable. It's one that doesn't come up a lot. This, I actually believe I sold the I sold the knife set with a knife block of this pattern, and it sold for over $100. And I can't remember how many were in the set, but it was valuable. And I picked it up at a yard sale for $10, I think. But This you can see here that sets of 20 are selling for around $300. These look like they are likely new. They've sold a lot of times. Someone probably had multi-quantity. But you can see most of them are new, but $300. So what I'd say is if yours wasn't new, you would still be getting at least $200 for a 20-piece setting, as long as it was in nice condition. Here's one that sold for $230 that is also about probably close to a 20-piece as a quick glance. So around $200 to $250 is what I would imagine not new, so still valuable. And then we have here a just single place setting. It is new, and it's the Barrington pattern. It sold for $80. And again, as I like to focus on, guys, these patterns aren't real intricate. You're not buying gold here. They're just basic stainless. And that's also another thing of this video. All of this is stainless. There is no silver plate and no sterling, because those are the things I believe people know usually are valuable. The silver plate, I really don't touch it. It's just not my favorite when it comes to flatware. But sterling, you see sterling, you should pick up sterling. But stainless can also be just as valuable at times. So this is a new set, but again, even if you got this not new, I would bet at least $50 to $60. And then here's Pier 1. So Pier 1 has a few different patterns that are valuable. This twist one seems to be one of the most popular. This also comes in black handled twist. And if you see here, this little code here, this like P, either it's probably II17, that comes from replacements.com. So if the pattern doesn't have an actual name like Fiddlehead, then they will assign a little code to it on replacements.com. And that is important to put into your listing when you are doing it. So I always put that code into my listing and it helps sell it. Otherwise, you're just kind of describing it and it'll be harder for people to find. But this twist handled one, let me go here, sold for $425. So the full asking price you see sold for $425. It's 51 pieces, so keep that in mind. I always say if a pattern can sell for $5 a piece, it's a good pattern for me, because I mean, selling a single fork for $5, that's awesome. $10 is where I really start to get into the money, but $5 for a piece of stainless flatware, I think that's great money, and that's more than $5 a piece here. Okay, and then we have next, here's just the salad fork so that you can see the pattern up close. These are marked Pier 1 imports, so pretty much everything I do show you typically does have a name marked, but not always, like that Pottery Barn. But that's what the pattern looks up close. So it's an interesting piece, and this is again that code PII17. That is how you can search it into eBay as well as replacements.com. But this is just 3 salad forks, so sold for $50. Next, we have IKEA. So there are a few different patterns as well in IKEA, but I think it's one of those that people might not think is valuable because, like, it's just IKEA. This set here of 32 pieces sold for $150. And you can see here, it is an incredibly basic pattern, but it is called Data. And again, watch that first video if you need to know how to figure out what your pattern name is. And that will show you how to do it. But this sold for $150. So it's still pretty good money for a set, and probably could have parted this out as well. Next here, I try not to judge, but if this is your first photo, change it. Don't do this. This is blurry as sin, guys. So blurry. But again, I try not to judge, but the other photos are clear, luckily. This is a Hampton Silversmith's Dazzle flatware, and it is 47 pieces. It did sell for the $350 you see. Hampton is a brand that is out there a lot as well, and I found it many times, and I have sold many pieces of Hampton for very good money. So IKEA, I found it before, but it was before I really started sourcing flatware, and I put it back because I went, it's just IKEA, no one wants that. I've done that with other pieces too. I think about all the stuff I've put back over the years, and it makes me a little crazy. Pier 1 I haven't seen out there, but a lot of these I've seen. You know, I've sold the Barrington knives, and I've sold a lot of Cambridge, but these are patterns that, or these are brands you can find. So this is what the dazzle pattern looks like. It's kind of a rope edge here is what also people might refer to it as. And this should be marked. Let's see if there's a picture with the mark. It's very hard to see. It is very hard to take a picture of the Hampton mark. I will say that every time I've had to, it is very difficult. But it's there, Hampton Silversmiths. And then here's that pattern up a little closer. Again, kind of a rope edge is what you could also put as a description as well. And this is 7 salad forks, and it did sell for $74.95. Next, we have Boda Nova. So this brand, I just want you to grab anything Boda Nova. This is one of those that is just valuable. And why I say that, so here on Terapeak, I am looking at the last 3 years of Boda Nova stainless in the title selling. And here we have a price range of $100 to $1,200 and 270 total sellers. So the average price is $47 of selling. So that is a high average for this, I think. And it's just a name that when you see it, pick it up. I have recently found some Boda Nova, and let me tell you, it is valuable. I will show you something I sold in just a second. But there are different patterns. So we have here that it's a black handle and it's 25 pieces. It's a very blocky looking kind of pattern. But this set sold for $420. There's other ones. Gourmet is the one I'm going to be showing you and is the one that's most common to find. But there are other ones as well. That looks like it's probably Gourmet. But just as, and here's Stockholm. This is I don't know how I feel about that pattern. It's interesting. But Stockholm, that one sold for $350, and that's a set of 30. But let me show you what single pieces can sell for. Here's my single teaspoon. This is my single teaspoon that sold for $45 in a day. I also sold a lot of 3 teaspoons for $135 in this gourmet pattern, and I sold 2 salad forks for $75. And I still have soup spoons, I believe, and dinner knife or dinner forks listed that are also, the dinner forks are $200 for 3 of them that I have listed. But I've gotten great feedback on all the ones I've sold so far. So this is a pattern to watch for. Let me show you where it says, I might not have taken, there it is. So there it is, Boda Nova, Japan. And I do believe Korea also makes Boda Nova, and then you also might find, I think it was Sweden that made some. But Japan is a good one to look for. Then let me show you one more. This is, I think this odd pattern we looked at. It's oval steel, and this sold for a best offer of $90, and it's just 8 random pieces. Because right now we've got a soup spoon, we've got 2 teaspoons, probably a dinner fork, some dinner knives, and some more teaspoons. That is a very random lot, and that is still over $10 a piece they got for that lot. And it again says Boda Nova, Korea. Here we have Linux, and Linux makes a few different patterns. It's definitely one to keep your eye out for. And this is Linux Butler's Pantry Stainless Flatware Glossy 4 place settings. This one sold for what you see of $135, but I will say I saw higher solds for this kind of size set for up to $200 or so. I do think you could get a little more for this depending, but $135 for 20 pieces is also a good value. And that's what the pattern looks like. Let's see, and this I know is marked Linux because I've also sold Linux and it's always marked nicely. And that just says Linux on the side or on the back. Then here we have Interpur. I have found Interpur quite a few times. It is one of those things where pretty much anytime I find a brand name with Japan, I am picking it up because it's gonna be worth something almost always. And this is one of those cases. Interpur has a few different patterns. One of the most common ones I believe is out there is this Jardinera Interpur stainless flatware. And it's a very pretty looking one. I have sold this pattern a few different times, but I only find little pieces. I've never found sets. I always just find like the handful of assorted crap. from sales. And this sold for $169.99 that you see, and it was for 35 pieces. But again, this is one that it's pretty common. I find it quite a bit, just little pieces here and there. And it does part out very well. And this is another one that I have sold personally a few times, and my mother-in-law just picked up a set for me at the thrift store, and it's Interper Canoe Hearts Japan, and this is 44 pieces. It sold for $150, but parting it out, you can make a bit more, I believe. And these are definitely in great condition. You can see these are like brand new. Mine are not totally brand new. They're not in perfect shape, but let me show you the back if they show it. And it says Interper Stainless Steel Japan on the back, but Interper is one I definitely look for. I find it relatively often. Next here we have Noritake. There's a few different patterns in this brand. This is one of the more valuable ones. This is Sylvia Stainless Japan, and you can see the pattern a little bit here. It's not super clear, but it's just a bit of a floral pattern. And this set of 32 pieces sold for $120. So I'm going through a little faster on this video because I do think I want to get these names into your head. So a lot of these names, if you find them and you get them really cheap, you should probably pick them up. They make good stuff. There are, of course, things that are not very valuable in Oneida that we talked about in the previous video. There's not super valuable things in Hampton, Cambridge. There's always things that are not going to be super valuable, but if you find a really cheap set in any of these brands, just pick it up. Here is a Vera Wang one, and I just put this up because it was interesting because it's also Wedgwood. And here, you don't want that E in Wedgwood. It's always W-E-D-G-W-O-O-D. If you have an item that says Wedgwood with an E in the middle, that's probably meaning it's a fake Wedgwood. Just as a clear heads up. But I've absolutely made this mistake in my titles so many times, and sometimes I don't catch it. So it is what it is. And that's probably what happened here. This one sold for a best offer of $189, and I do think they could have got more for this set, but it's 36 pieces that sold for that price, and it is marked. First, let's see if we can find the mark. I know it was marked. I swear I looked at this before. Here we go. Where it just says Vera Wang, Wedgwood, Vietnam. And let's look at the pattern here, because it's, again, nothing special. Nothing special. I do want to say, just as a quick side, most of these flatware sets that you find, and if they are 24 electric plate, then, or if they're 24 karat electric plate, those are a lot of times just not going to be very valuable. I found that those are less valuable than typical. So just keep that in mind. Let's see here. This next one, I have another Wedgwood because I figured if we're already on the Wedgwood site, then let's go ahead and do this. This is a 52-piece Wedgwood Knightsbridge stainless, and beaded because it's beaded on the sides is why they described it that way. That is a good descriptor word. This lot sold for $450 for 52 pieces. So this one I know is also marked Wedgwood that I saw. Whoops. And I didn't know Wedgwood made this because usually you associate it with the regular Wedgwood pieces. The light blue, the cobalt blue, all those ceramic pieces are typically what you associate with Wedgwood. And then we just have a little bit more. This is going to be the valuable stuff. This is George Jensen. So he is a famous Danish silversmith from the late 1800s, early 1900s. And this set here sold for $775. And it's very valuable. Any of these George Jensens, if you find George Jensen, it's going to be valuable. It's another one's like the Boda Nova. Just grab it. And this sold for $775. Let's look. As you can see, again, nothing super special. Let's see if there's a name on it. There it is. George Jensen Stainless, Denmark. And then I just wanted to show you this last one because I thought this was wild. This is a cake server, and it sold for a best offer of $300. A single cake server because it's George Jensen. So guys, thank you so much for joining me for this part 2 flatware video. I maybe will be able to do another one in the future, but hopefully this gives you lots more ideas of things to look out for, and I will see you guys on the next video.